Okay, good afternoon and welcome to today's session. And I'm very happy to have you all here. So we're going to talk about the text self-reliance by Emerson, and we'll have some analysis of some of the points. I mean, it's a long essay, so it's not possible to cover all the paragraphs. So some of the important paragraphs we will try to focus on from the text, and we'll also try to analyze those paragraphs. Now, let's jump to the next slide. Now, you can see it was published in 1841 in the book called Essays, and then in the 1847 revised edition of Essays, Self-Reliance took shape over a long period of time. So he first published in 1841, then again 1847 he republished it, but he did lots of correction and also he reshaped it. So throughout his life, Emerson kept detailed journals of his thoughts and actions, and he returned to them as a source for many of his essays. Such is the case with Self-Reliance, which includes materials from journal entries dating as far back as 1832. In addition to his journals, Emerson drew on various lectures he delivered between 1836 and 1839. Now, look at this. He actually always kept a journal. That means he always kept a diary, and he kept writing about his experience. Actually, whenever he went, and on the basis of his experience, he would write a journal. And most of his essays, he would go back to the journal, and he will take some of his ideas from the journal that he wrote while actually he was in different places. And then he took those ideas from the journal and turned them into essays. So, and also I told you in previous lectures that he was an orator. That means he was a lecturer, public speaker. So he went to different places and different countries, and especially between 1836 to 1839. Between this time, he gave lots of speeches. He delivered lectures in different places, and also those lectures were also regarded as essays, or he turned them into essays later on. Now, next. The first edition of the essay bore 3 epigraphs, a Latin line, meaning do not seek outside yourself, a 6-line stanza from Beaumont and Fletcher's Honest Man's Fortune, and a 4-line stanza that Emerson himself wrote. So Emerson dropped his stanza from the revised edition of the essay, but modern editors have since restored it. All 3 epigraphs stress the necessity of relying on oneself for knowledge and guidance. Now, I will be showing you in a while the text Self-Reliance, and you can see that at the very beginning of the text, in the very first page, he used some stanzas from different poets, and that was a reason behind that. And also, he also included some lines written by him. You know that Ralph Waldo Emerson, he himself was a very renowned poet. He was a poet and an important figure in the American literature. So also, he wrote some lines, and he also added those lines in his essays at the very beginning. We call it epigraph. But when actually he edited it finally, he dropped his lines, but kept the rest of the lines that he quoted from different other poets. But later on, modern editors these days, they restored it. That means his 4-line stanza also they included in the epigraph. Now in the modern version of the essay, we have 3 epigraphs at the very beginning of the essay. Okay. Now, the essay has 3 major divisions. He didn't devise it in that way, but we, the readers, We actually will divide it into 3 different sections for our better understanding. So you can see from paragraph 1 to 17 of the text, that is first division. And the second division is paragraph 18 to 32, and the last division is 33 to 50. Because in 1 to 17, he was talking about self-reliance, and in 18 to 32, he was talking about transcendentalism and other issues, and also in 33 to 50, he was also talking about all these things together. So that's why, for our understanding, we will also divide it in this way into 3 different parts so that we can easily grab the idea from the text. Now, the next paragraph and the next slide. I think that we should jump to the text instead of analyzing from these slides, because it will help you a lot if you just take a look at the main text. So it will be easy for us to understand it. So I'm going to share it. Can you see the can you see the text now? The original text of self-reliance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, it's not a PowerPoint, it's a PDF. Okay, now if you can see it, that's great. So this is the text self-reliance, and don't worry, I will send it to you. Okay, I will also share it today on your Facebook group so that all of you can get hold of this text today. So here you see the first line. He says that noto quiseveris extra, and then again he's saying man is his own star. So these are the lines. These are the lines from Belmont and Fletcher's Honest Man's Fortune. So you see, man is his own star, and the soul that can render an honest and a perfect man, commands all light, all influence, all fate, nothing to him falls early or too late. Our acts, our angels are good or ill, our fatal shadows that walk by us still. So these are the lines from Belmont and Fletcher. And then again, these are the 4 lines, and these were written by Ralph Emerson, or Walt Emerson by himself. Now, he says, cast the bantling on the rocks, suckle him with the shield's teeth, wintered with the hawk and fox, powered in speed be hands and feet. Now, the important one is here.
Sir?
Man, yes.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Is it a motivational poem?
Which one are you talking about?
Sir, this
Okay.
poem.
Yes. I will go by one. Just bear with me for a few minutes. I will explain it. Yes, of course.
Okay.
So you see, the first thing is it says in Latin that noto quiseveris extra. So or nete quiseveris extra. It means that do not seek outside yourself. What does it mean? Do not seek outside yourself. Do you understand it? Anyone? Do not seek outside yourself.
Sir, again, please.
Seek, S-E-E-K. Seek means to look for.
Seek means खोजा.
Yeah, exactly. So do not seek outside yourself. Do not seek outside
Sir,
yourself.
এখানে বোঝাচ্ছে যে নিজে
Go on.
স্যার এখানে বোঝাচ্ছে যে নিজের উপর নির্ভরশীল হও, মানে অন্যের উপর নির্ভরশীল হতে যেও না, মানে অন্যের কাছে কিছু চাইতে যেও না, নিজের উপর নির্ভরশীল।
You're very close. Yeah, you've got the idea.
স্যার নিজের মধ্য থেকেই বের করা, মানে অন্যখানে না খুঁজে নিজের মধ্যে যা আছে সেগুলো খুঁজে বের করা, এরকম কিছু।
নিজের প্রতি আত্মবিশ্বাসী হওয়া, মানে নিজের ইনার স্ট্রেংথটাকে বুঝতে পারা, সেলফ কনফিডেন্স টাইপ স্যার।
Exactly. So
outsider মানে outside থেকে কোনো ইনফ্লুয়েন্স না নেওয়া।
Yes, sure. Exactly. All of you are right. That means you have to rely on yourself. If you really need any answer to any question, if you really need to solve anything or anything philosophical that you need, then you should seek it in yourself. You shouldn't go for outside source. Everything is in you. So that is self-reliance. So you see the title, self-reliance, it is very much reflected in these very Latin Latin phrase or sentence. So do not seek outside yourself. So in the next stanza, but from Beaumont and Fletcher's, he's saying that man is his own star. The same thing. That means you are your own star. You don't have to follow any other star. You yourself is a star, and the soul that can render an honest and a perfect man. So you are the soul, you are the star, and you can be yourself a perfect and honest man. So commands all light, all influence, all fade, nothing to him falls early or too late. So if you really, command yourself all the light, and if you really try to have all the influence, and you can also, you can also command your fate. That means you can control everything, influence, light, fate. So you have the control over everything. So nothing to him falls early or too late. So if you can control all these things, all the influence, even if you can control your fate, even if you can control your light means your genius, your individualism. If you can control that light, your enlightenment. If you can control everything, then nothing will fall early or too late. That means everything that you will achieve on time, not too late or not too early. So you can achieve everything within the time that you want, because you have that capacity as a human being. And then he goes further. He says, our acts, our angels are, our good or ill, are fatal shadows that walk by us still. So fatal shadows. So you say our acts, our angels are. That means our actions, and that means whatever we do, that will be responsible for the good or evil. So we can create our own fate. That is called fatal shadows that walk by us still. So our fate that is with us, and it follows us as a shadow. So if we act properly, so then we can influence it. So our fate is in our control. So this is not that fate is controlling us; we are controlling our fate, and our actions will control it. So that's why you're saying our acts, our angels are. That means whatever our angels are our acts. It's not that angel is something which is divine that will come to your assistance. It's not like that. Your actions will come to your assistance, and that will make the situation that whether it is good or bad. So if your life is good or bad, it depends on your actions, that how actually you approach to your life. Now, I don't want to go for further discussion with you, so I would like to jump to the text. So here you see, he is saying, I read the other day some verses written by an eminent painter which were original and not conventional. So he's saying that he enjoyed painting by an eminent painter, and he's saying that those are original, not conventional. The soul always hears an admonition in such lines, let the subject be what it may. The sentiment they instill is of more value than any thought that they may contain. To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men. So this line is very important, and that actually defines an individual. So this is his thesis statement, you can say, rather, from this essay. I'll read it to you again. To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men. That is genius. So he's saying that why actually I like that painting? Because I could find a kind of individual touch of that painter in his paintings. That means he was not conventional. He didn't conform to the conventional norms of painting. He drew his paintings but followed his heart. That's why he's saying that to believe your own thoughts, you have to believe your own thought, and to believe what is true for you in your private heart. That means privately or personally, what you believe, if you believe that this is true, and if you believe it in your heart, then that is your genius. And that will be true for all men. It's not only true for you, also it will be true for all men. That means we have to believe in yourself, not we have to believe in others. So if you follow the prescription of others, and if you try to draw something according to that prescription, so that will not be your genius, because you are doing some imitation. So he will come, in the next few paragraphs, you'll find that he will talk about imitation, why actually it is harmful for us. He will explain it. Now, he's saying, speak your latent conviction, and it shall be the universal sense. latent conviction, that means which is dormant. That means conviction means your belief. Your belief in your heart, it is sleeping. It is in a sleeping mood. So that is the latent conviction. That means your sleeping conviction, your dormant conviction, dormant belief. That is belief that is sleeping in your heart. And it shall be the universal sense. And that will be in the universal sense, that your personal conviction will be the universal sense. For the inmost in due time becomes the outmost, and our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. So he says that the inmost is due time becomes the outmost. So whatever actually you have in you, the spark, your individual spark that you have in yourself, inside you, that will become, it will become something outmost. That means it will be expressed outwardly, and people will see that spark, people will see that expression. And our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. You remember that by the trumpets of the last judgment means he is talking about the day of the judgment, the last day of the world. According to the Christian theologian, also in our scriptures, we also find the same thing, that the last judgment, the day of the judgment. So that day of the judgment, the trumpets will be blown. And he's saying that our first thought is rendered back to us, and then our thought will come back to us when that last judgment will be there. So even in the last judgment, our individual perception, our individual genius, that will lead us to that last judgment. It's not that the fate will lead us to that. Familiar as the voice of the mind is to each, the highest merit was ascribed to Moses, Plato, and Milton is that they set at not books, that means nothing books, zero books you can say, not, and the tradition that they spoke not what man, but what they thought. So you see, he is saying that Moses, Plato, and Milton, actually, they are the greatest, they are greatest personalities. Why? Because actually they spoke their thought. Whatever actually they think, they talked about it. They spread their words to the people. So that was new. Their individual perception about the religion and about the God, they expressed it, and they spread that idea, into their society. A man should learn to delete and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of birds and sages. Now, I will like to skip some of the thing from here so that, can you see the second?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, actually, it's not, I can't see it on my screen, but no problem. From another laptop, I can read it to you. Just listen, then you will understand it. And I will share it with you. And if you have pen and paper, just mark down the paragraph number and also the page number, so it will help you to understand it later on. Now, in the second paragraph, it says that there is a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better, for worse, as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him but through his toil bestowed on that plot of ground which is given to him to till. You see, it's a long line, but if you just concentrate on the first few sections of the lines, sentences, then it will be easy for you to understand. There is a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance. So at one point of your life, you have to come to this understanding or feeling, and you have to understand it that is envy. He's saying that in every man's education, and arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance. That means if you are envious of others, and if you try to follow them out of jealousy, that, okay, he is great, so I will do the same, then in that case, that will be suicidal, because imitation is suicide. So he's saying that imitation is suicide. You cannot imitate others. You have to have your individual thought. You have to express yourself. So self-expression, he is emphasizing. That means self-reliance. You have to rely on your own imagination. You cannot depend on, others people's imagination. You should remember that that Ralph Waldo Emerson, he went to England, actually while his wife died, then he left the church, and then he went to England and different other European countries. And when he went to England, he found that in England at that time, Romanticism, that was the age of Romanticism. And he went to, meet Samuel Taylor Coleridge and also Wordsworth. And he found that Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, he admired them, but he found them very simple person. And then again, he also met the Scottish writer, Thomas Carlyle, and he also became very fond of him, and the rest of the life, they remained as friends with Thomas Carlyle. So you see, he was influenced by this idea of Romanticism, and that is the idea of imagination. Because without imagination, you cannot be yourself. And without imagination, you cannot have your individualism. We know that Romantic age, actually, Romantic tradition, it emphasized on the individual prosperity, and also same time it emphasized on nature, and also it emphasized on imagination. So he took these ideas from Romantic movement or Romantic age, and then he was influenced by this, and he wrote this paper under the influence of these Romantic ideas. So that's why he's saying that if you imitate, then you are not using your imagination. So you have to use your imagination to prove yourself as an individual, and you cannot follow anybody. And then again, he says, now in the next page, second paragraph, page 3, second paragraph, he says that, he's saying, trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Accept the place the divine providence has found for you, the society of your contemporaries, the connection of events. Great men have always done so, and confided themselves childlike to the genius of their age, betraying their perception that the absolutely trustworthy were seated at their heart, working through their hands, predominating in all their being. So here you see, trust thyself. We know that Aristotle said, what did he say? Aristotle, he said that, know thyself. Remember that? But here actually he's using
স্যার
trust
এটা তো
thyself.
সক্রেটিস মনে হয়
Yes, Socrates, he told that.
Sir,
know-
Socrates.
Exactly. Socrates told that know thyself. But here actually he has used it in his own way. He's saying trust thyself. Because if you don't trust yourself, then how could you be self-reliant? You cannot depend on yourself until and unless you trust yourself. So that's what he's saying, trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. That means, here you see iron string means, if you just consider the guitar, so there are strings in the guitar. So just like that, that means your heart will vibrate with this thing, that when you will trust on yourself, or when you have trust in yourself, then you can do something. You can prove yourself that you are someone else. So that is the very idea from these paragraphs on page 3. Then I will go to now page 4. In the second paragraph, he's saying that these are the voices which we hear in solitude. The voices.
স্যার এটা কোথায় দেখতে পাচ্ছি না তো
Actually, I cannot move it on. Yes, I
Screen-এ
understand
আসে
it. I understand it. That's why actually I'm telling you. That's write down the screen. The number of the paragraph and the page number. So later on, you can, when you actually will listen to it, or you will watch this video, then you can relate it to that. Okay? Because from my
Okay,
screen actually it's gone, so that's why I couldn't move it. Now these are the voices which we hear in solitude, but they grow faint and inaudible as we enter into the world. Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members. And this is very important. Now here he is talking against the society. You see, he is a non-conformist. In the next paragraph, actually, he will say that he is a non-conformist. He's saying that we want to do something, and we want to uphold our innocence, and we want to show our creativity, use our imagination. But the society, you can see, because if you want to live in the society, you have to abide by the rules that are imposed by the society. But if you really always conform to the rules of the society and the tradition and tendencies of the society, then you will not be able to create something new, something novel, because you're always, all the time, you're imitating. You're not following your imagination. So that will create the problem. That's why he's saying that society everywhere is in conspiracy. So society is in conspiracy. It is actually conspiring against you so that you cannot improve yourself. You cannot prove yourself as an individual. In the next paragraph, we are running out of time. We have less than 2 minutes, but I will just finish this with this one. This is very important for the understanding of self-reliance. Excuse me. Now here he says, whose would be a man must be a non-conformist. Now this is the thing. If you really want to be an individual, someone unexceptional, someone new, someone like a genius, then you must be a non-conformist. Non-conformist means you cannot conform to the rules that are prescribed by the society or by the country. So if you really want to do something, or even by the religion, I told you that actually he didn't, support the traditional religion, or you can say the, organized religion. He didn't believe it anymore. So that's why he's saying that we have to be non-conformist if we really want to be, want to prove ourselves as genius. Then again, on page 5, on page 5, he's saying that there is a paragraph. It starts like this: virtue are in the popular estimate rather than exception than the rule. He's saying that virtues are, that means the differences, or you can say as a man, whatever you have, something exceptional, that is virtue, not the rules. So he's saying, you can just summarize it, the whole discussion in this way, that if you really want to be a genius, or if you really want to be self-reliant, then you cannot go by the accepted rules of the society. So you have to do something different. And for that, you have to use your imagination, and you have to have your own world, and you have to transcend from this world to the next world so that you can prove yourself that you are a genius. So that is the thing. We have less than 30 minutes. I'm extremely sorry. I can't take your questions, but leave your questions on the page. I'll be there and I'll answer all your questions there, inshallah. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Welcome, sir.